Have you ever met someone and without a word, everything inside you just paused? The air felt heavier, the world grew quieter, and time, just for a moment, stepped back to watch. You didn't plan it. You didn't chase it. But there they were, a stranger who felt like a memory. It wasn't desire, nor was it chance. It was something deeper, something older, like recognition. Not new, not random, ancient, written in the marrow of your being, as if your soul had been whispering their name long before your mind knew how to listen. Carl Jung, the depth psychologist and cartographer of the mind, had a name for moments like these. He called them synchronicity, a mysterious alignment between the inner world and the outer world, so precise, so intimate, it feels divine, cosmic. These aren't coincidences, they unfold like destiny, unplanned yet unmistakable. This isn't just a video about love. It's a message for those who feel something more, something sacred, something written between lifetimes. So if someone once crossed your path and stirred something timeless you can't explain, and you've carried the question ever since, why them? Why then? Why like that? This isn't coincidence, it's the moment you begin to understand. Watch this video till the end, you may finally find the answers. When something truly sacred is approaching, it doesn't come with noise. It comes with precision. You won't hear trumpets or fanfare, you won't see flashing signs, but something inside you will shift, slightly, irrevocably. You'll notice the stillness before the storm, the breath that catches without warning. You'll feel that something unseen just changed the path beneath your feet. Jung taught us that the unconscious is not chaos, it's intelligence, a deep structure operating beneath the ego's timeline. And when someone appears who stirs your soul, it isn't randomness, it's alignment. The first sign won't be intensity, it will be recognition, a simple, sacred knowing. You won't know why, but you'll know them, as if you've met before, in dreams, in symbols, in a life you can't name but always felt. It's not just that they're attractive, or that they say all the right things. It's that their presence silences the room, and in that silence, you hear yourself more clearly than ever before. Like your mind has opened into a world that feels both ancient and intimately yours, a place where every soul-connected dream you've ever carried begins to echo at once. That is the first sign, clarity without explanation, a peace that doesn't make sense, a connection that feels like home, not the kind you've known, but the kind you've been searching for since before you knew what to call it. Because you weren't just looking for love, you were looking for yourself, hidden in another's eyes. As Jung once wrote, what is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. You don't find them when you wish. You find them when your unconscious is ready to speak through them, and when it is, the web of synchronicity tightens. Invisible threads pull the moment into place, but the signs don't stop at recognition. Sometimes they echo, they repeat, they follow you into ordinary life until you realize something deeper is guiding this. In the next part, we'll speak of synchronicity, not as a theory, but as the language your soul already understands. And the moment you return to ordinary life after being with them, it starts. You think of them, and a song plays that echoes the exact words you've never said. You're walking down the street, and their name appears on a passing truck. A text arrives, not when you expect it, but the very second you release the thought. These are not accidents, these are alignments. Jung called this synchronicity, not causality but meaning, events that link not through logic but through significance. And when a soul connection is destined, the universe doesn't organize events like a calendar. It orchestrates meaning like a symphony. It layers symbols, repeats patterns, not to impress you, but to wake you. The universe doesn't send signs to prove, it sends signs to pierce. In Jung's own words, we often discover with astonishment that something we have just dreamed of or thought about turns up in the real world. These meaningful coincidences point beyond the realm of chance. The more you pay attention, the more it speaks, not in full sentences but in fragments, moments, echoes, mirroring symbols that pull your gaze. And here's the paradox. The less you chase it, the louder it gets. Not because you're manifesting it, but because your inner world is finally tuned to receive it. You started to face your shadow. You touched what was hidden. And for the first time, you saw the difference between your longing and your readiness. That shift changed everything, not because you became perfect, but because something inside you finally stopped running. And when that happened, the patterns changed, the signs sharpened, and the universe in its quiet way opened a door. In the next part, we'll talk about a mirror, a special mirror that doesn't just reflect but reveals. Stay with me. There's a hidden truth the universe whispers when you're finally ready, one that Carl Jung traced in silence, between the threads of the cosmic design. You didn't fall for them. You fell into yourself, through them. That's the part no one prepares you for. What most people call love is often just comfort, soft edges, familiar feelings, roles we already know how to play. But soul connections don't comfort you at that phase. They disorient. They stir the waters. They disrupt the version of you that could survive on autopilot. Because this person doesn't just reflect your inner beauty. They reflect your shadow, the forgotten, fragmented, buried pieces you thought you could leave behind. They awaken what you exiled. They speak to the part of you that has no words, and suddenly, without trying, they've entered the locked room inside you, the one even you were afraid to open. Carl Jung called this projection the unconscious transfer of your inner world onto another. And when the connection is real, the projection is not random. It's precise, archetypal, sharp like glass. As Jung wrote, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. And this time, the disguise isn't random, it's radiant. You're drawn to their calm because your mind is loud. You admire their presence because your past made you vanish. You ache when they leave the room, not because they are your only light, but because their absence stirs shadows you've never faced alone. This isn't romance. This is recognition. And recognition will wreck everything you've built to keep yourself safe. Because what if the part of you that longed for them was really the part of you waiting to be seen? Real soul connection doesn't say, I complete you. It says, here is what you forgot. The way your voice used to rise before it was silenced. The hunger you denied because you thought it made you unworthy. The softness you buried to survive a world that mistook sensitivity for weakness. They didn't come to heal you. They came to show you what still needs healing. And in that reflection, you don't just see them. You see your own architecture, unfinished, radiant, trembling. You see the self you've been building in secret. You see the cost of your hiding. And for the first time, you realize this love isn't a destination. It's a mirror, a sacred one, the kind that shows not how beautiful you are, but how ready you are to begin. And sometimes what it shows you hurts. Not because it's wrong, but because it's real. You may feel the ache of seeing those shadowed parts for the first time, or the grief of a love that never fully arrived. But one day, in the stillness that follows, you'll name it for what it was. Not just a romance, but a revelation, a gift from the universe, a sacred disruption on the path of awakening. And when you look back, you'll understand something even deeper. The synchronicity wasn't just about finding them, it was about finding you, through the doorway of that love. In the next part, we'll step deeper into that pain, and you'll begin to see it not as a mistake, but as a rite of passage, a fire that forges the soul. Here's the part nobody tells you. When the universe sends someone who touches your soul, it doesn't always feel good. In fact, sometimes it burns. Not because they're toxic, not because you're unworthy, but because their presence activates parts of you that you've spent years avoiding. Their gaze brushes against a door you've kept sealed. Their silence exposes wounds you never named. And what rises isn't bliss. It's grief, longing, anger, memory. It's everything you buried so you could function. Carl Jung warned, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is that moment. This is when the soul stops waiting and begins to initiate the ego. You stop blaming past lovers. You stop scripting the same story of abandonment. Instead, you feel it, all of it. The grief you never processed, the longing you disguised as independence, the anger you translated into perfectionism. And beneath all of it, something older than this lifetime, something ancestral, something sacred. This is not heartbreak, this is initiation. Because when the real connection arrives, it doesn't flatter your persona, it confronts it. It doesn't feed your fantasy, it dissolves it. It asks gently but relentlessly, can you feel this pain without making it mean you're unworthy? Can you stay present with the wound instead of turning it into a new performance? This isn't trauma bonding, it's trauma surfacing. And if you stay with it, if you don't run, you begin to see what this connection was really here for. Not to satisfy the ego's dream, but to awaken the self that lives beyond the dream. You stop trying to fix them. You stop trying to prove yourself. You start listening. And the voice you hear beneath all the noise is your own. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet that is exactly what sacred pain demands, that you stop editing your soul, that you stop chasing healing as performance, that you surrender to the kind of honesty that doesn't seek approval, only integration. And that pain, it wasn't a mistake. It was the fire that made the mirror real, the fire that called your name so that you would finally remember it. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll see why not all soulmates stay, but all of them matter. Some people arrive like a sunrise, warm, unforgettable, perfectly timed, but they don't always stay for the afternoon. That's the ache no one prepares you for. That the ones who touch your soul most deeply are sometimes the ones who have to go, and not because the love wasn't real, but because their role in your story was not to walk it with you forever. It was to change its direction entirely. You don't lose them because you did something wrong. You lose them because the purpose was transformation, not possession. Not every soul you recognize is meant to remain. Some are sent to awaken you, and then return to wherever they came from. Carl Jung once wrote, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That's the point. Not endurance, not outcome, not titles, but transformation. You remember them not for how long they stayed, but for how deeply they moved something in you. And when you try to force them to stay beyond their sacred timing, the very magic they brought begins to fade. Because they weren't sent to complete your life. They were sent to interrupt it, so you would finally begin to live it. And yes, it hurts. It hurts when someone who feels like home no longer has a door you can walk through. It hurts to carry conversations that will never finish, to replay moments, wondering if they felt it too. But one day, you stop searching for closure in their absence and start finding meaning in your own evolution. You realize they didn't leave you empty. They left you different. They left with the version of you who hadn't yet awakened. And you stayed, because you were the one meant to carry the growth forward. This is how soul-orchestrated love works. Not through contracts of ownership, but through moments of revelation. Not through permanence, but through presence. You don't measure it by duration. You measure it by what it changed in you, by what it revealed, by what it called you to remember, reclaim, or release. So if someone once stepped into your life and stirred a memory too deep to name, only to vanish before the story could finish, don't mark it as a mistake. Don't reduce it to something broken. Some soulmates are not meant to walk beside you. They're meant to wake you and then step aside so you can walk yourself. In the next part, we'll speak of timing. Why the universe doesn't send what you want when you want it, but what your soul is finally ready to receive. You can't summon this kind of love by wishing for it. You can't fast-track destiny by craving it more loudly. The universe doesn't respond to longing. It responds to readiness. If you're still begging for attention, still lost in self-abandonment, still seeking a person to numb the ache, then what arrives will reflect that chaos. Not a soulmate, a lesson. This is hard to hear, but it's the truth. Because the moment you begin to heal, not perfectly but honestly, the mirror changes. You no longer chase the one who triggers your abandonment wound. You no longer confuse emotional intensity with spiritual recognition. Instead, your soul quiets. You feel whole without a witness. You stop asking when and start listening to why. That's when the signs shift. That's when the universe sends someone not to save you, but to walk beside the version of you that already knows, I am ready. Not because I found them, but because I finally found me. Yes, it's one of the hardest lessons on the spiritual path, because it confronts your deepest longing with your truest readiness. We're taught to believe that desire is enough, that if you want something badly enough, the universe will give it to you. But Carl Jung understood a deeper law. He saw that the psyche doesn't move according to will, it moves according to structure. And the universe answers not your craving, but your coherence. You may want a great love. You may want depth, devotion, soul recognition. But if your internal system is still wired for avoidance, for control, for illusion, then what arrives will mirror that. Not to punish you, but to reveal the next layer of alignment required to hold what you say you want. As Jung wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people don't receive the love they long for because part of them still longs from the wounded self, the part that seeks safety over truth. The child who learned to earn love, not receive it, and so the universe delays, not out of cruelty but out of precision. It waits until you shift, until you stop chasing completion outside yourself, until you stop confusing intensity with intimacy, until you begin to build a life that is energetically shaped to hold what you once only hoped for. And then, without warning, something changes. The people you attract change, the patterns dissolve, the silence feels different, and the next connection that enters your life doesn't come to trigger your trauma. It comes to meet your maturity, not because you finally deserved it, but because you finally aligned with it. That mirror didn't disappear, it just sharpened, because now it no longer reflects your longing, it reflects your readiness. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the becoming of the whole self. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming integrated, about living in such a way that your inner and outer worlds speak the same language. No contradiction, no split, no distortion, just readiness. And when that readiness comes, the universe no longer tests you, it joins you. Stay with me, because what comes next is something few ever truly reach. There's one sign that doesn't get talked about enough. It doesn't arrive as butterflies. It doesn't come with dramatic signals. It doesn't scream, "This is it." It whispers. It arrives as peace. A kind of knowing that needs no permission, no label, no proof. It's the stillness after the storm. The feeling that something has been rearranged inside you, gently, permanently. Not because someone gave you love, but because you no longer seek it as permission to exist. This is the final sign the universe sends, because it marks your final threshold. The quiet stability within. Your own quiet stability. The person may stay, they may leave, but the shift remains. You no longer ask why they came. You no longer try to rewind or predict. You just trust that your soul called something forth and it answered, and now you're different. You've shed the illusion. You've remembered your name. As Jung once wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That is the real sign of a connection aligned by the universe. It doesn't just change your heart, it restores yourself. So let me ask you this, a question your soul might already be answering. Has the universe ever sent someone into your life without warning, yet somehow made you feel more awake, more exposed, more alive than you thought you could be? Did they arrive quietly in a season you weren't ready for, and leave before you knew how to let them go? And still, do they echo somewhere in your breath? Not as fantasy, but as a moment that rearranged you. If someone came to mind, honor it, share it. You're not alone in carrying a story that doesn't fit language. If this stirred something in you, subscribe. Not for affirmation, for alignment. This is a space for those who walk with symbols, for the ones who feel the pull before the path. And if you're one of them, you didn't find this by accident. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers, and maybe, just maybe, today, it whispered through this. Thanks for watching. See you soon in the next video.